we're so happy to have you.
Hi.
Mind introducing yourself?
Yep, my name is Simmons. I'm the high school history teacher here at Mount Olive High School.
We talked around and you've been chosen for our Faculty of the Month.
Awesome.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions,
Sure.
might go off the paper. Why did you choose to become a teacher?
Teaching wasn't my first career that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a police officer, actually, and took a bunch of criminal justice, and then I got into history courses as a fallback, and then I started going to schools and observing, and I kind of fell in love with the practice of teaching. I think it's also passed when I had other history teachers in my own education coming up that really endowed in me like what history meant, what it was for the community, society as a whole, and what it meant for me.
It's always great to have a good teacher, especially if you're planning to go into a teaching career.
Yeah.
Why history? I know you kind of answered that, but let's get more of a clear answer.
I don't know. I think it just clicks more. I mean, I can do math, I can do science, but history to me, it's something that you have to piece together the pieces. You have to learn from the past to learn about the present, or how to fix the present from the past. I think that's always a big thing that I've always taught my students, and it's something I always believe in. And I think there's more history that comes out of the woodworks, just like a relic that's hidden in an attic that comes out and it tells a different story from what we once thought. I think that's one of the biggest precursors of what I try to do as a history teacher and what I like about it.
Well, let's say hypothetically, you could have been a history teacher. Would you have still gone into teaching? Would you have just chosen something else? What would you have done?
Probably would have been a police officer. Probably would have worked towards like federal employment, try to be an FBI agent or something like that. But I think teaching has been there all along, and I think that was just waiting on the sidelines, and I just had to see it.
What advice would you give to a student who has a similar passion for history?
Go on and do what you want to do. You know, history, if that clicks with you and you want to study history, do it. I'm not someone that says do something else. If your heart tells you to do it and your mind wants you to do it, you do it.
Well, how long have you been teaching here?
See, this will be my 8th year in education, 7 years at Mount Olive.
Where did you teach beforehand?
I taught at Litchfield, was my first school I taught at. I taught for a semester and then I came here.
How was your first year starting out? I know you're beloved now, but it's always hard for a first year teacher to...
Yeah, it's
connect
hard.
with
You have to rein in your craft, just like a woodworker. You're not going to be able to build a table in one night. You have to take your time. You have to have multiple times where you have to fail. And that's what I tell students all the time. You will fail in life. You just got to learn how to pick yourself back up, fix it, and redo it. When I first started, I failed a lot. I mean, I tried everything from the book. I've tried everything from objectives that have come from teacher ease to everything, and it just didn't work for me until I just found my voice where storytelling was the way of telling history. Kids didn't want to learn from textbooks, and I kind of threw that out the window literally and started something new. Started coming up with new ideas and mentalities towards teaching history in a way that people thought differently.
Well, right before I was coming down here, I was talking to some people in the hallways, and it was a senior. I can't remember her name. I'm not good with names. But she was telling me how much she just loves how you teach and how you as a whole person is really easy and fun to connect with. Do you find it easy to connect with your students as well?
I guess it just depends. I mean, some students are easier to connect with than others, but I think it's just how you mesh in society as a whole as well. Like, you have to know that other people are going to come from different facts of life, different ways they think. Not everyone's going to connect that way. I try to treat my students the way they want to be treated as human beings, but more importantly as adults. And if they want to be treated the way they want to be treated, I treat them that way. But I think the biggest thing is connection to students is going to take time. And I think over the last 7 years, I've made that connection where my name has been resonating with other students and they've told their siblings or family members or whatever. But I think that's the main thing. You just have to start somewhere. You have to start from the bottom and work up.
I definitely remember hearing your name from my older sister.
Yeah.
She moved out of the school. But you were definitely a positive name. She'd always loved history herself. Could you tell us what classes you do teach? Because I know you teach a handful.
So I've taught international relations. Right now, I currently teach a Holocaust class, history of the Holocaust and the beginnings of it and the end. I teach dual credit through Lincoln Land, where we teach U.S. history from pre-beginnings all the way to 1960s America. I also teach world history, U.S. history on the basic level for our sophomores. I've taught Illinois history before, taught civics. I also teach, that's pretty much it right now. Psychology, yeah, that's another big one I teach. So that's kind of like the flow that we have.
I've heard great things about your psychology class.
Yeah.
Get people to really feel what you're talking about.
Yeah, try to get them to connect with it. It's a hard topic to really connect with, and try to show them different angles, different theories, different studies of psychology, maybe that interests them that they have for their college careers.
What was that first class you mentioned? Because I don't recognize it. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, international relations. We taught that about 2 years ago, where we learned about like governance of other countries and what happens politically inside those countries, how they rise, how they fall. We taught that in connection with civics with some of our juniors about 2 years ago when they needed another class. And it really took off, but we really haven't taught that anymore in the last few years. It's kind of just been laying dormant for a while.
Does seem like an interesting class. Maybe they'll bring it back sometime.
Maybe.
Out of all the classes you teach, well, what's one of your favorites? It's probably hard to pick a favorite, but
I love teaching U.S. history. That's my forte. That's what I studied in college. My big thing is I studied everything from the Civil War all the way to the 1970s. So that's kind of like my realm. Anything before, I try to build at the same time my students are learning, trying to learn new things about it. But I really enjoy teaching U.S. history more than any class.
You do have a passion for it. I've been in one of your classes, and you can truly see the passion. It's always great whenever you know that your teacher has such a strong passion and motivation for their job.
I think that's what's needed for teachers. You're not going to have a teacher that just sits there and gives you worksheets or reads out of a textbook. You got to have someone that challenges you, gives you something different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just had a question. I think it's left my mind. So I'll ask you another one till it comes back. Growing up, were there any classes that you particularly struggled in? Because I know there's a couple people who struggle in history and all that stuff.
I struggled with math when I first started out. I wasn't very good at it. I had a tutor that helped me. And then as I got older, I started becoming better at it. I was pretty good at science, didn't have any problems there. I did have problems in English for a while, writing, trying to find my voice, especially with writing essays and making sure everything was right. But it takes time, just like I've said before, you have to craft and hone in your skills. But math, I would say, was my lowest suit.
It is a struggle for most. I've heard many good stories from other students about you. Do you have any fun stories from this year or last year that you'd be willing to tell us?
I don't know. The stories that I have, I kind of write down through the months and try to keep tabs of them. I really don't have any funny stories or anything like that. I think the most incredible stories that I have are seeing the students leave this school and actually become successful. I think that's the only stories that I really care about. There's stories that come and go with kids, vaping in the bathroom to, busting kids on the bus for sneaking on it or whatever. But, that all doesn't matter when it comes down to seeing, your students that you saw grow coming up, go on to do something else. I think that's the most incredible story, and it's the start of a story for them, and it's an ending story for me.
Have you had any students come back to contact you
just
thank you?
Yeah, I
stuff
get
like
students all the time that send me emails or send a phone call, try to get a connection, or ask questions about a class, or want me to come in and speak to their students that they've been becoming teachers themselves. And I get all kinds of people that try to contact me or want to talk and share a cup of coffee and reminisce about the past.
Have you ever responded to any of them?
Oh yeah, I respond to them all. anyone that needs any assistance or they need help or ask for a letter of recommendation or anything, like I try to answer promptly and anything that I can do to help.
Sorry, I'm a little bit lost for words. You've been given such great answers.
Well, that's my job.
What would you tell someone who's just genuinely struggling, just in general?
Struggling how?
Could be in life, could be in school. A lot of people struggle outside of school, and
The biggest thing I was always told is look past it.
look past it.
Things are looking bleak now. Things may look wrong. Things may be you're shaking your fist at the heavens. Who knows? But the biggest thing is you got to look past it and move on. You have to push forward. If not, there's no need for you to keep going on forward. You just stay where you're at and you just become miserable. You have to move past it. You have to make yourself someone you want to be, not what other people want you to be. I think the biggest thing that I was always told as a kid is do what your heart desires. And I think that was the biggest thing that I grew up with, thinking in the back of my head. Even when I was thinking about being a police officer, there was still deep down something missing. And I think that's what I went into, is teaching, because I wanted to help others. And this was a way that I could do that as well, is helping the community, helping students cope with various things from mental health to, learning where they want to be in college in their life. I think that was the calling all along, but that all came down to, you got to follow what your heart desire.
Well, if you don't have anything else to say, I'd have to say this has been an amazing interview, and I'm so happy that we here at the Cats Connection could have you as our Faculty of the Month.
Well, thank you for having me.